Okay, good morning. Good morning. It is 10:01 a.m. and we're going to get started. We are recording this session. For those that are not here, this recording will be posted on our FY24 NSGP website for viewing at a later time. My name is Derek Durazio. I am the Grants Branch Manager and Compliance Officer at North Carolina Emergency Management, or NCEM. My office is responsible for the administration of the FY24 NSGP, Nonprofit Security Grant Program grant. My office is called Grants Management Branch. We have our staff members online with us today to assist with this presentation and monitor the chat and answer questions. My office is responsible for the management of approximately 10 different major federal and state grant programs that we run across the state of North Carolina. We manage about $80 million of grants a year among those 10 different programs. NSGP is one of the grant programs that we do administer. Our subrecipients are in the hundreds across the entire state, consisting mostly of governmental organizations for other grants and nonprofits for this grant. So against that backdrop, we have started just this year, starting in January 24, implementation of a new online grants management solution called Salesforce. We have rolled that out with a previous state grant program called CVCG, Competitive Capacity Building Grant Program. That's just for counties, so we're in the process of that grant right now. And then this is the second grant we have now rolled out in Salesforce, is the FY24 NSGP program. Because of that, this is still somewhat of a pilot program, if you will, for Salesforce. We wanted to make sure that we had plenty of information sessions and time for question and answers to assist applicants with making sure, number one, they're properly registered in Salesforce, and then number two, we're going to get into this later today, how you actually submit your application for the grant in Salesforce. So I've put the agenda up on the screen so everybody can see it. We're starting with an introduction from myself, and then we're going to go into the actual program overview with our NSGP program manager, Bradley Garrett. Many of you may know him from his dealings with the NSGP program over the years. So Brad will give us that, including a walkthrough of our recently updated FY24 NSGP website, which we're very proud of. Brad will walk us through that. Then we're going to have a session on Salesforce registration from Miss Amanda Thaxton, who's our Salesforce registration expert. She will make sure everybody understands how to create an account if they've already done so, and associate contacts with the account through the registration process, because that's the first thing you have to do in order to use Salesforce. So Amanda will take care of that. And then we will do a Salesforce demonstration where I'll actually show you how to submit your FY24 NSGP application in Salesforce. And then, of course, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers at the end of the session. If at any time you have a question during the session, just raise your virtual hand and we will call on you, put it in the chat. And we will have pauses throughout the presentation as well for questions. So one of our primary purposes today is to make sure we answer all of your questions, and we have plenty of time to do that here today. Okay, so without further ado, just by way of kickoff, just to kind of set the stage for what Brad's going to talk about here in a minute. The NSGP program this year for FY24, we have $4,275,000 for the NSGPS program for qualified nonprofits to compete for across the state. Now, NSGPS are all the counties that are outside of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. So if you're a county that touches Mecklenburg County, you'll be competing for the NSGP UASI program, and that's a total of $137,250,000 across the country. That's a nationwide competition. So that's over $137 million across the entire country. So the UASI competition is nationwide. The NSGPS or state competition is statewide. So if you're in one of the counties that does not touch Charlotte-Mecklenburg, you'll be competing for $4,275,000 with the other nonprofits across the state of North Carolina only. If you're in a UASI county that touches Mecklenburg, you will be competing for $137,250,000 nationwide against all the other UASIs. So a lot of money on the table, and we're certainly excited to receive as many applications as we can to make this a competitive process and make sure we get this money out to worthwhile organizations. Okay, with that, Brad, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, and you can lead us through the FY24 NSGP program overview, including website walkthrough. And I'll stop sharing my screen, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. You pretty much summed up the whole program right there, but I will do my best to try to follow suit. let me share my screen with you guys. By the way, my name is Brad Garrett. I am the NSGP grant manager. I work for Derek, and I'm going to give you a little overview of the program here. 1 second, let me share my screen with you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the NSGP program for FY24. Derek's already touched on our branch, what we do, the number of grants that we manage. This is more or less the grant cycle with NSGP and any other grants that we manage, especially federal grants. They all start off with a notice of funding opportunity. And on state grants, there's an award that's made. So next step would be the application process. And this is the process that we are in right now for NSGP. Once we receive the applications, we go through a rigorous scoring criteria. We then submit the applications to FEMA, and then they make the award. We are the recipient of the grant. You guys as applicants would be considered the subrecipients of the grant. We then send out award letters to inform you that you've been awarded X number of dollars. And we also, in the event that you don't get an award, we send out the now. At that point, once we get the award letters out, we go through the MOA agreement. That is your contract, memorandum of agreement. That's the stipulations of the grant, different things. Derek is our compliance officer, so he would definitely let you know about these things a little later on. The next step we go through is once we go through the MOA, a lot of times you may have to submit what's called an EHP, an environmental historical preservation, on some of the projects that you were awarded on. Once we get all of that done, we get the review letter back from FEMA, you're ready to start your projects. So the next step would be you be requesting reimbursement. This is a reimbursable grant. Keep that in mind. Recently, we've had several recipients of the grant from prior years rescind the grant because they got into it not realizing it's reimbursable. And here it is, they have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 projects, and they can't put the money up front to do the projects. So please keep this in mind. This is a reimbursable grant. Also, there's reporting. For this year, for 24, we're going to be requiring yearly reporting progress reports. They must be turned into us in order to be reimbursed, so you have to stay on top. But we were on a quarterly thing, but now we're going yearly, so it's a little easier on the subrecipients as well as us as the recipients of the grants for the paperwork and processing things. Then once everything is taken care of, you've expended all your funds, you've completed all your projects, we go into the closeout phase. The period of performance on this grant is 3 years, and we like to stick to that period of performance. We will send out, if you are awarded, you will be informed of the period of performance and closeout and what procedures we have to follow after that. There's documentation that has to be submitted. And then once we close out the grant with FEMA, we then turn around and send you a closeout letter letting you know that we've officially closed out the grant with you. And that kind of speaks to the grant life cycle. Now to the program itself, NSGP, the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. The priorities of this grant is to provide funding support for physical security and also cybersecurity. And funding support means that we're supporting that there's a certain amount of funding that you guys yourself have to do. This grant helps to support that, your needs for your security needs if you're at high risk of terrorist attacks or domestic extremism. One of the national priorities for this, the national priority area, is soft targets and crowded places. That is the main focus for this grant. Trying to protect houses of worship, nonprofit organizations, places that a bad actor would possibly see as a target. So these are things that this grant are trying to do. Also, it's one of the objectives is efficient planning for things. being proactive in your planning. Also, training and awareness campaigns, training for active shooter, sheltering in place, awareness campaigns, putting on campaigns at your organization to let your congregations or your membership or your employees know what's going on. And then also running exercises. I spoke of the shelter in place, active shooter, things of this nature to protect and enhance your facilities. Okay, who's eligible for funding? First of all, you have to meet the description under section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And you must be tax exempt under section 501A of that code. Now, churches, houses of worship, synagogues, they're all inherently considered 501c3s. But for organizations, museums, different organizations, you have to have a certificate. Here in North Carolina, we don't require that you give us a certificate, but when you sign off on this grant, you are attesting to the fact that you are a 501c3 and an eligible 501c3. Okay, you must be able to demonstrate through this application that your organization is at high risk of a terrorist or other extremist attack. So in the application, there are certain questions that you're answering, and you're answering these questions specific to your location, your organization, like-minded organizations, houses of worship, different religious groups, what's going on within your specific community regarding your vulnerabilities. Okay, now for NSGP, as Derek already stated, located within NSGP state, that's the areas located outside of the UWASI. Here in North Carolina, we have the Charlotte area is our UWASI. That's the only UWASI we have in the state. So if you are not in the Mecklenburg or the surrounding counties, you have to apply for the state side of this grant. And if you are in Mecklenburg or the surrounding counties, and what I mean by surrounding counties is any county touching Mecklenburg County, you have to apply for NSGP UWASI. If you apply for the wrong funding stream, your application could be denied. Okay, so just like we spoke of that, Derek spoke about the funding amounts. If you are in the UWASI, you can apply for up to 3 locations for a total per 150 per location for a total of $450,000. Same thing for the state. If you have 3 locations located within the state funding stream, you can apply for up to 150 per location with a total of 450. Now, there are some organizations that are unique. They have locations in the UWASI and in the state. So if you have, per se, 3 locations in the UWASI and 3 in the state, you can only apply for a total of 450 between the 6 sites. So that would be $75,000 per location. And it's very, it's an extreme situation. There are a few organizations that do fit into that area where they have UWASI and state locations. Okay, and this is the map for the counties. As I said, Mecklenburg County and any county touching Mecklenburg. Stanley is considered in the UWASI, though it doesn't really touch Mecklenburg. But here are all the UWASI counties here. You have to apply for NSGP UWASI if you have a location in one of these counties. Okay, this is speaking about the programmatic growth of the program. As you can see, in 18, the state was awarded $333,135,000. 19, the state, we got $440,000. Then the jump to 20, we got 1.1 million, slightly over 1.1. In 21, we got 1.2, almost 1.3. In 23, we got 1.3, but the jump occurred last year where we were funded a total of 5.8 million. The program is steadily growing, but now there was a decrease this year from last year, but we're still being funded, as Derek spoke. On the state side, our allotment is 4.275. And here you go. Derek spoke about the website. This is how you apply, and I'm going to let Derek speak to the application process because we have Salesforce this year, so it's slightly a little different, but I'll let him speak to that. But I'm going to go to the website right now. Let me pull that up. I dropped the link to the website in the chat. So this is the North Carolina Department of Public Safety's website for the NSGP grant. At the top, we've got the update, the application period being open from the 22nd to May the 24th. Speaks of the Salesforce application process that you have to go through. It also gives you particulars about the grant. I just went over this, about the program itself, the overview of the program, tells you about the funding streams. It gives you the Uwasi area, the counties that are in the Charlotte-Uwasi. Speaks to the total funding amount that we have, the allocation on the state side of 4.275 million. Okay. Also, it speaks to what we were given last year. It speaks about the two sides of the program, the cap being 450,000, regardless to how many locations you have. Okay. And here it is, it's highlighted. May not exceed 6 applicants, 3 on the state funding side, 3 on the Uwasi funding side, for a total of 450 per state. Okay. The primary purpose is target hardening for contract security. Now, if you do apply for contract security, you can only apply for a total of 50% of your awarded amount. So if you apply for 150,000 for a location, 75,000 of that can be for contract security. And contract security, you must ask for quotes. You just cannot go to a church member who's a security guard and have him doing it. That's considered single sourcing. You have to abide by the procurements under grants, and that speaks to if you do get the grant. We will talk more about that. Here's the eligibility. We spoke about that, about the qualified 501c3s. Here's your deadline to submit applications for this year is the 24th of May by 11:59. Okay, in the application, I'm going to regress and I'm going to let Derek speak about the application because we're going through Salesforce. But for NSGP, you must do the vulnerability assessment. You have to have the IJ, the 24, the IJ for NSGP, and you also must submit a mission statement. And if you like, you can you can also submit supporting documentation like police reports, incidents that have occurred, photos of vandalism, things of that nature. Also, we're speaking here, we have virtual information sessions and office hours. This is today's. As you can see, we have a list all the way up until the 23rd of May. And there's some relevant content here. But also, if you go up on our webpage here, we have the 24 documents, all the application documents that you need. So here's the investment justification. If you're going to do this, you have to download it to your computer first to open it. Here's the application checklist, grant writing tips, investment justification checklist. We also have the application quick start, frequently asked questions, the key changes for 24, and honestly, there weren't changes too much between 23 and 24. And also, if you are in an underserved area, the climate and economic justice screening team, GISA, it's a website that you go to. You put the location's address in this website, and it will let you know if you are in a disadvantaged area. FEMA is giving a 10-point credit for bonus points, they're calling it, for if you are in one of these disadvantaged areas. That pretty much sums up the 24 application and things you'll need. I'll turn it back over to Derek.
Thank you, Brad. Outstanding overview and website walkthrough. Really hit all the high points. I want to reiterate a couple things that Brad said, just so we can be clear on some key points. First of all, on the graphic Brad showed about the funding for NSGP, you saw where our funding had been increasing every year until this year. We got a little bit less than we got last year. We got the $4,275,000 for the NSGPS program. I want to reiterate, we are still the third highest state nationwide for NSGP funding from DHS/FEMA. There are only 2 other states that are higher than us. What happened, unfortunately, this year across the board for all of the FEMA non-disaster preparedness grants due to the federal budget and the situation, the negotiations with the federal budget, pretty much all of our non-disaster preparedness grants were cut by about 10% across the board. So every state's getting less money, but relatively speaking, we are still 2 states higher than us with the funding we are allocated. So we are really in a good situation in North Carolina, and I encourage as many folks to apply as possible so we can use these funds wisely. Brad showed the application period started 4/22 and ends on 4/24/24. That's a hard deadline, folks. One of the aspects of using Salesforce is it will shut you out at 11:59 p.m. on 5/24/24. So I would please ask, not to push off in a situation where you're waiting to the last minute to try to submit the application. In case you run into problems or issues, it will lock you out at 11:59 p.m. On May 24th. So please do not wait till the last minute. Get your application in as early as possible. Brad mentioned some compliance issues. Just to reiterate for everybody, a very important point that Brad made. This is a reimbursement grant. Okay, so that means you have to basically front the money, right? You have to purchase the items, the goods or services, and then you submit a reimbursement request to us for reimbursement. That's the primary mechanism by which we ensure compliance, right? Because if you submit expenditures that are not eligible, you will not get reimbursed for them. So that's how we ensure compliance. The flip side, though, is you have to have the money to put up front to make those purchases. So if you're not in a position financially to do that, you really shouldn't be applying for this grant, okay? Because it's not going to work for you because you must make those purchases and then submit the reimbursement request to us. Those purchases must be made for goods or services that are delivered within the period of performance of the grant. So they can't be for things that occurred before the POP or things that occurred after the POP. They have to occur during the POP to be eligible expenditures. They have to be related to your approved application, and they have to be eligible expenditures to be reimbursed. Brad mentioned contract security in particular. We've had some issues with this in the past with some subrecipients. Contract security means contract, not salary. Okay, so it doesn't mean you pay somebody on salary or payroll for security and for security services, and then try to submit that as a request for reimbursement under your grant. We can't pay that. Okay, it has to be a contract security where you go out, procure contractual security services, that you show us that invoice or receipt, we can reimburse that. We can't reimburse salary for security guards. Okay, that's just a thing that FEMA has required of us. So please understand that as well. Also, from a compliance perspective, some nonprofits don't realize this, but in the state of North Carolina, if you're a nonprofit organization, and if you receive any grant funding or financial assistance from any state agencies in North Carolina, and NCM is a state agency, whether that's state funding or whether the state agency is passing through federal funding, which is in this case with NSGP, you will have financial reporting requirements. This is what we call level 1 to 3 reporting requirements. We have a website that describes this process. I'll show that to you in a minute here. But basically, you will have to submit annual financial reports. And those financial reports are really just showing, how much grant funding you received, assistance you received from all state agencies, and how you spent that money. So that we just want to know, what you did with the money you received. So that's the gist of those level 1 to 3 reports. If you receive a combined $500,000 or more from all state agency sources, whether state or federal funding, you must also conduct an audit and turn those audits in for review. So just please understand there will be financial reporting and potential audit requirements on how much money you receive from all sources if you do apply for and receive this funding. Brad mentioned the EHP, Environmental Historic Preservation. That's a federal requirement for pretty much all federal grants, at least that pass through for FEMA or DHS. And what that means is that's a suite of about 20 federal laws. And anytime you have any type of construction, renovation, modification activity, okay, kind of physical construction, renovation, repair, modification activity, you must get this EHP review. There's no charge to you to do it, but it can be a lengthy, detailed process. It requires a lot of paperwork. It can take some time. It goes through FEMA. We're not involved in that. We're just kind of a middleman in that. We facilitate the information between you and FEMA must approve the project. They review your project through a suite of about 20 different federal laws. Things like historic preservation laws. If you build this structure or put these cameras on this building or install this fence, are you violating any kind of historic preservation requirements? Environmental. If you build this light tower, are you disrupting the flow of migratory birds that are protected under federal law? Right. All these if you're digging up dirt, disturbing dirt, are you disturbing some type of nesting ground or dirt that would be for certain types of insects? Are you disturbing Indian burial ground? All these things. I mean, it's kind of niche as they may sound. These are federal requirements. If you use federal dollars to fund their project, you must be clear to those before you start the project. So please understand, most of the projects that are submitted for NSGP do involve EHP type activities because you're buying cameras, you're installing fences, you're installing bollards, you're installing windows, doors. These type of things require EHP. The way it's been described to us is you put a nail in a wall, screw a screw in a screw hole, disturb a teaspoonful of dirt, EHP is going to be required. Okay, so be understanding of that and be wary of that and understand that as you submit your application for these projects. So that's the major compliance issues that we see with NSGP. Let me share my screen now real quick, and I will show you all our website again. So the website Brad showed, which we're very proud of for NSGP, I get a lot of questions from potential nonprofit applicants for NSGP across the state because I'm the designated what we call SAA contact for the state of North Carolina. So I'm the basically the FEMA I'm the FEMA grant contact for North Carolina. So I get a lot of emails and questions about our nonprofit security grant program. Inevitably, the way I answer them is I simply refer them to our website, right? Because all of our most recent information that we always have is on this website. Okay, so just remember, just Google NCM NSGP or bookmark this. If you have any questions about NSGP at any time, the most recent information is always on our website. So please just remember that and refer to this website constantly for updates. But if you go to the right side of the website here, in this box here to the right, you will see the Grants Management and Compliance link over here to the right. You click on that. This describes those level 1 to 3 reporting requirements that I was talking about. These are all the forms you must complete depending how much money you receive, your level 1, 2, or 3. And then here's where you send the reports to when you have to complete them. So again, if you even receive $1 in funding, from a state agency, you have to complete these reports. So that's the requirement there. If you get $500,000 or more, then you have to do the audit. And it's described here to submit the audit. So these are the requirements here. We have FAQs for compliance as well. So you can always refer to these FAQs for additional information. And here is the reporting audit requirements FAQ, which describes the requirements in detail and should answer all your questions about that. Okay, so there's that. So with that, next on our agenda, as you can see, is Salesforce registration. So we're going to show you how you submit an application in Salesforce. I'm going to walk you through that here after Amanda. But in order to do that, you have to have an account in Salesforce, right? So we're going to take this logically, and Amanda's going to show you all, in case you don't already have one, how you register for Salesforce to create that account and associate yourself or other individuals in your organization as a contact with that account. So with that, Amanda, please take it away. I'll stop sharing my screen.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. I apologize for not being on camera. I just had to take my dog for a run so he would let me be on this call without crying at me. So in order to start a registration in Salesforce, you'll go to the screen and you'll see new user, click here. From here, you go in and you kind of complete the information with the red asterisk. Those are required fields and they need to be complete before you can move on. So I'm just going to kind of complete them right now. And then for where it says your business line, please feel free to include any number where you're reachable. That's pretty much what it's for. It's for us to be able to call you if we need you. And that's kind of what we need. For request type, you need to request new user requesting access. And you can say that you're just a representative from the applicant organization. If you don't believe you're registered in the system, please put no. And then you just fill in your organizational name. And then your classification, which would be either a nonprofit or if you know you have 501c3 status, is pretty much what we're looking for.
Amanda, I'm sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt. Let me jump in real quick. On that organization name, is that limited to 255 characters, that text field?
I believe it is.
Yeah. So just be cognizant, depending on what you try to type in here, there may be some text limitations on organization name. Hopefully you don't have more than 255 characters, but there could be a limitation on that. Okay, sorry, Amanda, go ahead and please continue.
Sure, no problem. And then for unique entity ID, that's your SAM ID number. While you don't need it to apply for the grant, you need it to get paid for the grant. So if, let's say, you're currently applying and you don't have one to date, you can always put in TBD, and then please put in your federal ID number or your FIN number, request permission level, full access applicant user, and you need to ask the reason why. I need to apply for GP. And then when it says program, just select NSGP. It's not FEMA NSGP or anything, it's just NSGP. And then you just click register and it takes you to a screen similar to this, where it's going to ask you if this is your org name. It's not. But on the off chance that it's close to you, feel free to use that one. So, and that's registering in Salesforce.
Outstanding. Thanks, Amanda. If you could put the link in the chat, please, so people know they have the link to click on to get to that registration page, that first page. Please put that in the chat. And then, as Amanda said, once you have that link, you pretty much click the new user button there at the bottom of it, and that takes you to those screens Amanda just showed. There is also on our go ahead, Amanda. Yeah.
Oh, so additionally, it may take us a couple of days to get back to you to approve your account. So once you've registered for an account, it doesn't mean you have an account immediately. It might take Felicia and I a couple of days to get through all the accounts to make sure that you're registered in the system.
Outstanding. And if you missed any steps that Amanda had just went through, we have a YouTube video link on our website. In that upper blue box on the website, you'll see a link to a YouTube video. And that's pretty much what Amanda just walked through. Of course, you can also watch the recording of this video when we post that on our website as well. I see a question from Beth there. It's 255 characters was the limit, 255 characters. If your name is more than 255 characters, you can use an abbreviation or as best you can. Hopefully it's not more than 255 characters, but just, abbreviate as best you can. That, as Amanda mentioned, the UEID, the unique entity identification number, if you don't already have that, you can still apply for the grant. However, you must have the UID before you're awarded funds. Okay, so you can apply without, but you must have a UEID if you are awarded funds. So what that means is, if you don't have a UID, you probably want to go ahead and apply for a UID now. And there is information on our website. You go to it's called sam.gov. If you just Google UEID, SAM, SAM. That will take you to the federal website where you can get a UEID for your organization. There's no charge to get a UEID, but it could take some time for that process. So please, if you don't have one already, again, you can apply for the grant today, but I strongly recommend you get a UEID. If you're going to receive any federal funding from any organization, you need a UEID. It's kind of like a social security number for your organization. The number never changes once you get it. It stays with that organization for the rest of the organization's life, but you must have that identification number to receive federal funding. So we'll let you apply without it, but you must have a UEID to receive it. That FEIN, F-E-I-N number that Amanda referred to, that's your federal tax identification number. So federal employer identification number, that's your federal tax number. You must also have that and put that on there as well. So hopefully you have one of those. If you don't have that, hopefully you'll get that very soon. If you don't have it, you could still apply without it, but you must have it before you receive funds. So UEID and the federal tax number. All right. And again, thanks for the question there in the chat, Beth. I think Brad's handling with that. Again, that's 255 character limit, not 55 characters for the organization name. Okay. We'll take a pause at this point. Are there any other questions? We've covered a lot of material so far. Are there any other questions before we get into the Salesforce demonstration? All right. Seeing none. And again, I know we only have a handful of folks actually online joining us today, but we are recording this, so everybody can watch it at their leisure. So we want to make sure we go through everything, today, because this is being recorded for anybody to watch it, and there'll be a YouTube video link once we're done with it here today. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. I'm going to walk you through Salesforce. Okay. So let's assume you've went through that process that Amanda just walked you through, and you have successfully you've registered with Salesforce, you've created your account for your organization, and you've registered as a contact associated with that account. You will then be able to log into Salesforce. And to be clear, there is no charge for your organization to use Salesforce. Of course, there's a cost for the service, but we pay that as the state. So there's no cost to the applicants or the grantees to use Salesforce. That's something that we pay for through NCEM with our funding. So, don't be worried about any kind of cost associated with the organization for using Salesforce. We pay that. But you go ahead and just log on. This is the screen you will see. Everybody can see that. It's your home page. Okay. It says, welcome to the North Carolina Emergency Management Grants Portal for Preparedness and Hazard Mitigation Grants. It's a mouthful. But essentially, within NCEM, North Carolina Emergency Management, we have many, many grants across the organization. We have over 20 major federal, state, and grant programs across the 8 sections of NCEM. My particular branch, the Grants Management Branch, as I mentioned earlier, we manage about 10 of those grant programs. So there's still 10 other ones out there that other sections in NCEM manage. One of those sections we call Hazard Mitigation, or HM. They have a number of grants that they are also using Salesforce to manage. So when you see this grants portal, it's a shared portal between our preparedness grants that Grants Management Branch manages and hazard mitigation grants. So if you were a nonprofit organization that perhaps could be eligible for hazard mitigation grant, you might be able to use Salesforce for that. I don't think there's too many HM grants that really allow nonprofits to apply for them. But just be advised, this is a shared portal between hazard mitigation and preparedness grants. That's why you see this welcome flash screen. In any event, when you have the home page here, the first thing I'd like you to do is check out your account profile. Now, I am logged on as a fictitious account that I created. That's called Z Alpha Test. So it's just a test account that I've created. Of course, your name of the organization would be here. When you click on that account profile, in any of the screens you see in Salesforce, you'll see this little black arrow next to the all accounts. Make sure you do a drop down on that, and make sure you do all. Sometimes it will default to recently viewed, and you may not see all the selections if you do recently viewed. So always default to all, not recently viewed. If you do all, okay, and then you could pin all right here. So that will then become your default view every time you click on account profile. So then you'll see everything. This is my account, Z Alpha Test, that I created. When you click on that, I want you to go ahead and check your information and make sure it's correct, right? This is where you will maintain the completeness and correctness of your account organization for all the grants that you have with NCEM, okay? So anywhere you see a pencil, okay, you can simply click on that pencil and update that information. So let's say, for example, employees, 200. No, that's wrong. I only have 100 employees. I'm a small organization. Just simply change that, hit save, and in real time, your information is updated, okay? What really becomes important, address information, right? You can edit that as you need to. Any kind of phone or contact information, update that and keep that going, as up to date as possible. This information here for branch, area, and dipper, that's kind of it's kind of a way we segregate organizations across the state within North Carolina Emergency Management. If you don't know who your branch is, what your area is or dipper is, just leave it blank. We'll fill that in for you, or it'll just be blank later. But the big thing is grantee details here. You'll need to make sure that you have your UEID in here. So when you get the UEID, you make sure it's correct. Anywhere you see a little eye icon, it's called an I box, you will see a blue box that describes for you what information we need in that particular field. Okay, so this is a Uniform Entity ID. It's a 12-character alphanumeric value, and there's the website I was talking about. It's sam.gov, where you can go ahead and apply to get your UEID if you do not have one. Okay. Now, in addition to UEID, you must also be registered in SAM. Okay. So again, this describes what that means. So while your UEID is a number that's, once you get it, that never changes, it stays with you for life. You must also be registered in SAM, which is required to renew that every year. Okay. Again, there's no cost for that, but you must renew your SAM registration and be current and valid in your SAM registration to receive federal funds from or through NCEM. Okay, so that's why you must certify whether you're registered in SAM. You must always maintain your SAM expiration date here on the website. Okay, so usually going to last for a year. So if you're not registered in SAM, you'll need to do this to get UEID anyway. But make sure you register in SAM and get your UEID. Get that information updated in your account profile. For one important thing as well, under account name for classification, you see a little pencil here. Please make sure that there's many different choices you can have here. Please make sure it's nonprofit organization. You can also do nonprofit 501c3 status if that is you. But if you don't either pick nonprofit or nonprofit with 501c3 IRS status, it will not let you apply for NSGP because otherwise you would not be eligible. So here it says nonprofit without 501c3. I would not pick that. Pick nonprofit or nonprofit with 501c3. Okay, only those two are eligible to apply for NSGP. All right, so make sure you have the correct, here I have the correct status, nonprofit organization. All right, some of this information, you see jurisdiction type, plan title. That's, again, kind of needed by our hazard mitigation folks. So if you're not applying for hazard mitigation grant, you don't have to really worry about that too much. You might want to just change that to probably to other. Put here, I'd probably just say, what would I say here? I'd probably just put none, if I was a nonprofit. Just save that. But again, that's just for hazard mitigation grants. Other than that, here's your FAIN, your Federal Employee Identification Number. It's your tax ID number. That's where it goes there. NCFS, that's the North Carolina Financial System. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But if you've had grants with us before, you may know your NCFS supplier number. It's just a way we identify you to get you electronically paid faster. So if you don't know your supplier number, that's something we can add later, but you can leave that blank. And that's pretty much all the information you want to keep current and on your account page. Now, in addition to the account, the account information about your organization, there's also contact information. Okay, so these are the folks who are associated with your account that can then go ahead and do business, if you will, be able to access Salesforce, log into Salesforce, and do business on behalf of the organization in Salesforce. So you must be a registered contact. In this case, we have 3 contacts associated with this particular Z Alpha Test organization. I'm sub-applicant Derek, so I'll click on myself here. So I would recommend also you click on yourself as a contact and make sure, again, all this information is accurate and correct. Okay, so let's just say, wait a minute, that's not my right phone number. That's wrong. Okay, click on that pencil there. My phone number is 919-111-3336. All right, go ahead and update that. So again, same process, just if you see a pencil, please make sure your contact information is updated. Make sure you have your email address, good phone number for you. That's the main stuff we need. So make sure that's all good to go. All right, once you do that, You verified your account profile. You verified your contact information. Go back to the home page and click Available Grants. So again, if your account classification is nonprofit or 501c3 nonprofit, you will see FY24 Nonprofit Security Grant Program available for you to apply for. Okay. Again, please go to the black box up here, the black arrow. Make sure you do available grants, not recently viewed. You may not see anything that goes recently viewed. Okay. So please always do available grants and go ahead and pin it so that becomes the default view. Okay. We get a lot of questions sometimes for people, they log on and they say, I don't see the grant to apply for. Well, that's because the view was recently viewed. You haven't viewed any grants recently. So please make sure it says available grants. All right. And then go ahead and just click on the grant. Now, this is essentially the information, you just kind of background information about the grant. It's kind of you peruse and to understand before you hit the apply button up here. Okay. So you just go ahead and read all this. This talks about the grant, the period of performance for the grant, which again is very important. It starts 9/1/24 and goes through 8/31/27. So what that means is the grant has to be complete before 8/31/27. All of your eligible expenditures have to occur within that period of performance. You must submit your request for reimbursement to be reimbursed by the end of the POP date. Okay. The applications are due 5/24/24. These are the funds available. The maximum award per grantee is $150,000 per site. That's per site. So if you have multiple sites, you can submit multiple applications for up to $450,000 for 3 sites, but each application is limited to $150,000 max. It's 100% federal grant. There's no cost share for this, so there's no requirement for you to kick in any money of your own. It's all 100% federal share. So that's what this says basically here. And here's information about NSGP. And up here is additional information. Okay, I just hit, yep, don't worry about it. This takes you to the FEMA website on NSGP. So if you're going to apply for NSGP, I will go ahead and click that link and have that kind of tab open so you can kind of see the FEMA information as well. Okay. And now there's your NoFo there. All right. Down here, I believe, let's see here. This is our website here. The link to our website. I would have that open as well. Okay. So I would have your, this is your the Salesforce screen open, the tab. This is the North Carolina Emergency Management website, excuse me. This is the FEMA website. I have those 3 tabs open. Okay. All right, so you go back here when you're ready to apply. So apply. Okay, ready to apply? Yes, I am. Okay. Again, this is going to be the information that it imports over from your account profile that we just went through. This should all be correct because you just updated it all. If, though, it's not correct, okay, you can X out of this at any time and come back to it and reopen the application. Once you start the application, it will assign a unique application number to the application. You will then be able to see all your applications in the applications object, which I'll show you that in a minute. And you can go ahead then and resume your application. So for this, okay, this all looks good to me. Am I a nonprofit organization? I hit yes. Is your organization located within the UASI? You know what, Amanda, just note to self, and Brad, this still says FY23 UASI here. We need to change it to FY24 UASI. That's just a note for us to make a change. It doesn't affect the application anyway. We'll just get that updated with the correct information. It should say FY24, not FY23. But let's say in this case, we're not in one of these counties, so I'm going to say no. Okay. I must pick my contact, and this is from the associated contacts with the account. So I'm going to pick myself as that. All right, all this looks good. Save and next. All right, what happened there? Unhandled file. Let's see here. Try this again. All right. I'm a nonprofit organization. No. And there we go. Okay. All right. See what's going on here. Okay. So here's what I want to show you as well. So I logged out of the, I closed out of the application. Here's the unique application number that is assigned to me. So anytime I start an application, I can always come back to it by clicking on the applications object. Again, make sure this says all applications. Go to the applications object and click on that application number to continue working on it. So here's what I've started so far on the application. Well, let me do edit it. Okay. Not sure here. Okay. Hey, Amanda, Jeff, are you on? Do you know why we're getting this unhandled fault error on this?
Nope. And I don't think Jeff is on the call. I've Teams'd him.
Okay. All right. Just one more time here. Yes, I am. No. All right, let's see here. Make sure I'm still a nonprofit. Yes, I am. Okay, it's going to be a short demonstration because we're getting an error message. So let me try it one more time. Okay, let's try this again. Right to apply, yes. Profit organization, yes, I am. No. Okay, well, we'll get this fixed and we'll get it sorted out for the next demonstration. Not sure why we're getting this error message. We'll get our technical staff on that. What I do want to cover today, though, in addition to this, basically what will happen is you'll walk through the Salesforce process that we just described. It'll walk you through a few screens. You'll have to make sure you have a budget entered, and then it will take you to an attachment page where you will have to attach your investment justification, your mission statement, and your vulnerability assessment. Once you attach those documents to your Salesforce application, you will then be able to submit the application, and that's all you have to do to apply for the grant. But what you would have to do is, of course, make sure you have your IJ, the investment justification form, complete, your vulnerability assessment complete, and your organization profile complete before you complete your application in Salesforce. You're going to attach those documents to your application in Salesforce. So I did want to go through the IJ just for a minute with y'all and make sure everybody understands the IJ. So if you go to the Nonprofit Security Grant Program website, click on application documents over here, it will take you to a link for the IJ, the investment justification. And again, you must download this form, okay, because it's not web viewable. So when you click on this link here, you'll get kind of this message here. What you want to do is go in here and just download it, okay? Just download the form to your local computer. Okay, I'll just download it to my downloads folder. Okay, then once you do that, go onto your local computer. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go into my computer under downloads. I'm going to open up the form for my computer. Then you will see the form. Okay, so this is the IJ form. It's the form fillable document. You can use any Adobe program, free Adobe if you have it, or if you have paid Adobe, whatever version you have, it will work. You'll fill in all your information here about your application. It's all pretty self-explanatory. It tells you the points you get, for all the different components of the application. But what I want to bring you down to here is the budget. Okay, so here's where you're going to go ahead and kind of list what you want to get specifically, right? The vulnerability addresses and how much you want. This is a drop-down menu. Okay, so you basically just select, call the AEL, the authorized equipment list number, associated with the item or services that you want to receive. So let's just say, you want to get, let's see here, maybe we want to get, I want to get some doors, some security doors. All right, I'll click on that right there, right? Vulnerability to be addressed. We have whatever it is. We don't have security doors, and then how much funding would go right there. But all you have to do is just simply select the drop-down item of what you want to get here, and it will tell you what the correct AEL is, and you'll be able to request funding for that item. Okay, so I want to make sure you understand that. Other than that, this form is pretty self-explanatory, but this is really the complete application form, which you'll get scored on. All the points are listed here on the application. The only other thing is, as Brad mentioned, if you are in a CGEST area, okay, so an area that's determined to be underserved, go back to that here, you will get 10 bonus points, okay? So the CGEST tool is here. All right, if you click on your CGEST tool, let's type in your address. Type in your address of your organization here, hit search, and it will tell you if you're in a disadvantaged area. If you're in a disadvantaged area, you will then receive 10 bonus points on your application when FEMA scores it. Okay, if you're not in a disadvantaged area, you do not get the bonus points. So the application, all the points are on the application form itself, the investment justification form. The only exception being the 10 bonus points you will get if you are determined to be in a disadvantaged area per the CGEST tool. And that pretty much is the application process. I apologize for the problems with Salesforce. We'll get that worked out for our next demonstration. At this time, we have a question and answer session. So we'll turn it over to anybody that has any other questions. I'll stop sharing my screen. Any questions from the group? Okay.
Actually, I do have one.
Okay, go ahead, Larry. Yes, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Larry Reeves on behalf of Epworth United Methodist Church in Durham. We have hired Durham County Deputy Sheriffs to provide on-site security service during our church services on Sundays. The bidding and what we'd like to do, of course, is see if we can get grant money to begin to pay for that. We're paying $50 an hour for basically 4 hours every Sunday. We'd like to have more, but that's all we can afford right now. I know there's a bidding requirement. How many bids do we need to submit to support our application?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, the way the procurement rules work is you must use the strictest, most restrictive of your local organizational procurement policy or the federal or state procurement rules. Okay, so typically you'll be following your local policy because it'll be more restrictive than the federal policies. But the federal policy has a micro purchase threshold, which is currently, I think, $10,000. If it's less than $10,000 on the micro purchase threshold, then you'd be allowed to do sole source. Anything beyond that, though, there'd be 3 bids required. If it goes to beyond $250,000, which it would in this case, then there'd be a formal bidding process required under the federal rules. So typically, you're going to have your own policy, and typically the policy will say we get 3 bids for security. Is what I've seen. Brad, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
As far as contract security goes, you must put that out. You cannot sole source that. If you're using the sheriff's department right now to do security, then you'd offer them the opportunity for a quote and go to maybe Durham Police Department, a private contract security firm. But you have to put that out there first to solicit who's going to be your lowest on that. You just can't go strictly with the sheriff's department. That's a big thing with FEMA on that. You can't hire somebody, like I said earlier, you can't hire somebody that's at your church. Just say, oh, we're going to let Larry do it because, he does security. So you have to put that out for quote.
Yeah. It's typically 3 bids, what I see. But again, do you have a procurement policy for your organization, Larry?
No,
Okay.
We're not that I'm aware of anyway.
Right. Yeah.
I can check, but I'm not aware of one. We're a relatively small church in Durham. Right. The bids, is there a form that they need to take to be acceptable?
No, typically, again, depending on the amount of the purchase.
That documentation area is something that you would keep yourself. You would just, put out a request for a quote, and whatever you get back, you keep that documentation on file. There's no formal form for that.
Okay, but we just report, we report what the bids are on the application.
Yeah, I don't think you need, I don't think you need.
You don't even have to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Derek. You got it.
Yeah, I don't think you don't need it for the application, Larry. That's just for your request for reimbursement. To be reimbursed, you have to have properly procured the services, right? If you don't, then we can't reimburse you. So typically, you'll see three bids. Now, I'll give you an example. If you're trying to buy an item, okay, some people will get a price from Amazon, a price from Walmart, a price from Target, right? That's three prices if you're buying an item, okay? And then you would pick the lowest cost responsive bidder, okay, is what it would be. So just pick the lowest cost in that case. With contract security, again, depending on the thresholds of the amounts that you're trying to get, the total procurement. So if you're looking for, $150,000, probably in that case, you would be able to just go ahead and get three quotes, from three different companies or, three different organizations, have those three quotes, and then pick the lowest cost, most responsive bidder from the three. But again, you should actually have a procurement policy for your organization. That's typically how it would work. And you would spell that policy out.
So we need to adopt a procurement policy.
Yeah,
is what
I would. I would, to be safe. And the reason we're telling you this is not just so that we can pay you, Larry, but like I mentioned, you could get audited, right? Depending on your total receipts that you get. And if you get audited, we want to make sure that you are audit proof, right? And even if we pay an expenditure for you, it could come back years later that FEMA or OIG could want to see the paperwork, and do an audit themselves. And if they determine there was a procurement violation, they could try to claw back that money, right? So we want to make sure that you follow the proper procurement rules up front, so there's no clawback situation later on, no audit problems later on.
Sure. What if we don't like, we get our three bids, and I'm thinking two would be the police department and the sheriff's department, and we don't trust a private outfit.
Right.
And we prefer to use licensed and sworn law enforcement officers.
Right.
Do we have to take the lowest bid if we don't think the lowest bid is worthy of our expenditure?
No, what you would do is you put requirements in your solicitation, right? So in your requirements, you'd say you have to be, licensed, or sworn or whatever, you have your requirements. And then organizations that are not meet those requirements, that would not be an eligible bid, right? So you put that into your requirements or your procurement policy. But the general rule is it's lowest cost responsive bidder. So if you feel that somebody's not responsive, then you could go with a higher cost. But in your case, I would have your requirements specified to be, licensed or sworn if that's what you wanted to do.
Okay. But we would still need three bids, even if even if three bids that meet our criteria.
Yes, exactly. Yep, and that'll be spelled out in your policy. And Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you can use off-duty police officers, right? That's allowed to be done. Is that correct? That's an allowable expenditure.
It is now.
Yeah.
Most law enforcement agencies now have off-duty coordinators. They have a particular branch now that covers their off-duty police officers, and they're trying to keep up with their hours that they're working off-duty. So yeah, you can go through the coordinators and you can do that, but you have to go through the bid process. If like the case you were saying, Larry, if you come across where you want to use the sheriff's the sheriff's department, put something in your files in writing as to why you're going with them, even if they're if they're not the low bidder. That way, like Derek was saying, to cover yourself in the event of an audit.
Got it. And that's with the sheriff's department. They do have a off-duty coordinator, and that's who we've used. So and that's worked out well.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Much. All right, Beth, I see you waiting there. What's your question, ma'am?
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Sure, no problem. You have plenty of time.
Our CFO said that we have a SAM renewal date. Is that the same thing as the expiration date?
Yeah, it is the same thing. Yeah, same thing. What is your date? Do you know?
I think it's December of this year.
Okay, December of 2024.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, then you should be okay, and then you just renew it again next December. You want to keep that current. Hey, Brad, I think your camera. I think we're seeing your hand, Brad, on your camera there. If you want to shut your camera off. Yeah, so you just make sure you renew it every year during the period of performance of the grant to make sure you accept the date on that.
And then we did the self-assessment,
Yep.
and that then exports to a Word document with the results, and that's what we submit.
That's absolutely perfect. Yeah, that's acceptable. And we also mentioned you're allowed to submit other documentation, so you must submit the vulnerability assessment, right? Your mission statement and the IJ, right? You must submit those three things. But Salesforce also gives you the option to attach additional documentation. So sometimes people will attach, crime statistics or crime reports showing actual or police reports, right, showing specific incidents or crime in your area, to kind of bolster your vulnerability assessment. I've seen people do that. So you're allowed to attach anything else you want, but you must have those three things: the mission statement, the vulnerability assessment, and the IJ.
Okay. And then if we wanted to do, like, if we're planning to do equipment, do we need to get a written estimate for that to do the application budget, or can we just sort of?
Yeah, it's not required. We recommend it. So you have some ground truth to what you're asking for, right? Because again, how are you determining how much you want to request for that item? Is there a reasonable basis for that?
Okay.
So I would recommend it, but it's not technically required.
If we're basing it off other work we've had done, that might work.
Okay. It might, yeah. But essentially what you apply for, right? If you receive the funding, that's the maximum amount that you get, and you must submit, receipts, and we reimburse you up to that maximum amount. If you spend more than that, then that's on you, obviously, right?
Okay. And then so we are a YMCA conference center.
Okay.
So we have one address.
Yeah.
But we do have several different large buildings over 1,200 acres.
Okay.
So can we only submit as one site, or would those separate buildings also count as sites? I've seen differing explanations.
Yeah, I got my opinion. Brad, what's your opinion on that question, Brad?
Well, each building has a unique name.
Yes.
Then you can apply for each building.
Okay.
But it's a separate application for each building, Brad. But then we have one physical address, right?
One physical address, each building, a separate application, IJ for each building, for each location. Each application you submit, yes.
Okay.
So you can submit up to 3 applications in that case, each $150,000.
Yes. And we're looking at doing keyless access control for which would be more extensive than a normal building, because we have individual rooms, obviously, that need lock access. One of those buildings is over 100 years old and on the National Register for Historic Places.
Oh gosh.
But if I allowed a whole year for the review, should that be enough time?
Yeah, it should. Hopefully, it should be. Yeah, we say it takes a while. FEMA's trying to get better with the EHP reviews. It's not as bad as it used to be. So a year should be more than sufficient.
Okay, so on the milestones, I would just put a year, and that would be.
I'd put a year for milestone. Yeah.
Can I interject on that, Derek?
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Now, if you're building, with the age of your building, if it's in the historical preservation area in your area, I'm suggesting if you are awarded, as soon as you do your EHP, that you contact your historical preservation board in that area to get them on board, because doing EHPs and getting the historical preservation districts involved, it draws out the whole process, because now FEMA has to get them to sign off before they can sign off, and it can draw out the process. So I'm going to try to do something a little different this year, knowing beforehand that you have to go through that review first also.
Okay. And we have contacts already in our preservation office. So, and we've done some other work on these buildings modernize them a little bit. So we're a little familiar, at least, with some of those processes.
Okay, well, doing the hopefully, on the federal side, it might be a little different on what they're asking for. You know what I'm saying? So I want to try I'm going to try to get everybody involved all at the same time to try to get these EHP reviews expedited. Let's say that.
Okay.
All right.
And with the EHP review, just to be clear, it's a review process. It's not a guarantee that it will be approved, right? So it's always a possibility it may not get approved, in which case then you would not be able to receive funding if the EHP does not get approved. Usually they get approved. There's usually conditions, but usually they get approved. But just be aware, it's possible they could say, nope, you can't do this, and it doesn't, part of your funding could be affected by that.
One of our sites is a newer building, right? So it's
Right.
not on the not part of our national register, and it's I mean it could be. I think it's more than 50, but we haven't applied for that yet. But with that, so I shorten the milestone for that one.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all I have right now.
All right, no, great questions. Thank you, Beth. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions we can help you out with? All right, thank you. And we'll have this recording put up on our website if you want to go back and review it. It's going to be embarrassing because the Salesforce didn't work, but it'll be up there. But by our next demonstration, we have the next scheduled event, which I don't know. I think it's next week. We have that. We'll have Salesforce up and working and make sure that we're good to go. But Beth and Larry, let me ask you the same question. Are you guys registered in Salesforce? So you have your accounts now ready to go?
Yes, I did that. I guess 10 days ago. Yes.
Okay.
I am ready.
Yes.
Okay, and you are too. Great. Okay, outstanding. And I was looking, and I saw we had about 25 organizations that already started their applications in Salesforce. So we know it is working. Not sure we got the error message today, but we know it's working for organizations. So hopefully when you go to use it, it'll work for you.
These meetings are very helpful. Thank you for doing it. I'm sure I'll be back on another one because I've never done this kind of stuff before, and I need this kind of help. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you joining us,
Brad.
folks. Yeah. All right. Y'all have a good day. We're going to stop the recording now, and maybe we'll see you next time.
Larry, we'll talk.
Look forward to your applications. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.